Welcome everyone to the Greg's World podcast, now found at its new home here on my old Lego live streaming channel, Brickatech Live, which has now been repurposed to become the Greg's World podcast channel and allow me to upload things like this. All of my podcasting efforts that are in video form are here. They're also available everywhere that you can listen to podcasts as well. And I'm really excited to kick this off with this particular episode because this is one that is 5 years in the making. And I do want to issue a disclaimer on this before we get into it. Some of this is going to feel, I fear, a little bit like bragging, which I don't want it to come off that way, but some positive things have happened in my life with what I'm about to talk about. And I don't want it to come off that way, and I don't want you to feel bad about yourself, but if anything, just feel happy for me and maybe a little bit inspired. If I could wish for anything from this episode, it's that maybe by listening to this, you do a little something to work towards a dream that you have, because I know we all have something that we're working towards. God knows I do have a lot of things that I like to accomplish. I'm going to be talking about this episode. But before we do that, we need to go back in time 5 years, back to August 2017. Greg's World podcast did not exist. My YouTube channel, though, did, and things were going pretty well on there, and I was thankful for that because earlier that year, I had taken a promotion at my job. I worked in finance, something I went to college for, graduated from, got a job in, and was on the path to success. I was now managing an entire branch of people, and I was absolutely miserable. I went from a job that I really enjoyed doing, being like the lone wolf, working towards things that I was working for and getting, commissions, and like as much success that I had was directly attributed to me and back to me. I come to learn that managing people is a whole nother ballgame, especially when the people you're managing, and to put it not so kindly, are incompetent. I found myself pretty much doing the work of 4 people by myself and found it easier just to go ahead and, instead of teaching someone how to do something for the 15th time in a row, I just did all the work myself, and I was getting burnt out pretty hard. I had a little Clark man at home, and everything was kind of suffering. I was putting 60 hours a week in, and I had enough time to pretty much come home, eat some dinner, Clark man in the bath, and then he's to bed, and that was pretty much it. And I know some people are currently living that life, and if you are, I have a lot of respect for you, but I just realized that my life was not going the way that I wanted it to. Luckily for me, as I mentioned, I had this little YouTube thing that was going, and Greg's World was chugging along, and it had a couple of videos were popping off a little bit, and I was making a little bit of money on there. Not enough to offset the income that I was earning at my job, because as I mentioned, I had just gotten a promotion and was doing well for myself. In fact, I could have worked that job the rest of my life and probably worked my way up and been wildly successful at it until I retired. Successful in terms of financial success, but not success in happiness or fulfillment, which is, to me, I think, way more important. In fact, I think if you can find those things, I think the financial success is actually a side effect of those things, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I just had enough, and Cody was well aware of my feelings on where I was and how things were, and we talked about maybe making that jump from full-time secure living to maybe seeing if I can make YouTube a thing, even when it wasn't a thing. I think at the time I was making about, to put financial figures out there for you guys, because I'm a finance guy. I have no problems talking about income, finances, any of that stuff. I thrive on that, but I know it's a taboo topic and people don't like to share that kind of stuff, and it makes people feel uncomfortable. So I'm going to try not to make you feel uncomfortable. But at the time I was making about $1,500 a month on YouTube, and my job was making a significantly more than that. So it was definitely a risk doing that, but we took some efforts leading up to that alleviated the pressure a little bit. I had been listening to Dave Ramsey for years before that, and if you're a person that's in debt right now, he's a great guy to listen to because his focus is on getting you out of debt by rolling your debt snowball and trying to get you to the place where you don't have all these financial obligations on your plate. And we were pretty close to being there. I think all we had at the time was maybe a mortgage that was left over. So there wasn't a whole lot of obligations, and when you don't owe people a lot of things can't be taken away from you. And I still believe in that debt policy. And I think had we not been out of debt, had we been struggling with, car payments and student loans and all that stuff at the time, I probably wouldn't have taken the jump that I did because it was too risky. Also, I will say my wife, Cody, as you probably all know, she's a teacher, and she had health insurance, and she had a great job. And I thought, you know what, even if this whole thing goes away, at least we have that to be secure. And I always knew that I was still employable, just because, and I wish more people knew this, just because you leave your job or you get fired from your job or laid off or whatever the case is, doesn't mean that you aren't employable. You have something to offer an employer out there. If you're a person, here's really all you need to do to get a job. Show up on time, be able to communicate. If you can do those two things, you're good to go. Just do your job. That's all it takes. So I knew that I could always get another job, but I really wanted to give this thing a go because YouTube had been my passion. Video making had been my passion. I just loved it. And I'm sure you guys all know how it's gone. But we took that plunge in 2017 and it was instantly like a sense of happiness and relief. I now got the time to spend with Clark, man, who was 2.5 years old at the time. And this couldn't have come at a better time regardless because Cody's mom was watching him for the first 2 years, and then her grandma had some health issues, so she was staying with Cody's mom, and it would have been too much to have the Clark man and her to manage and all that. I wouldn't want to put that on her. So all of this, thankfully, kind of happened at the right time. So I left my job right at the end of August, right when Cody was going back to school, and I became a full-time stay-at-home dad who also made YouTube videos. And I loved it. Clark and I shared so much time together, and I'll talk about the opportunities that I had here in a minute. But it wasn't until then when I actually had time to start investing in the thing that I love to do, and I wasn't putting all of those hours in that job, that things really started to roll, and the rest is history. Everything started going really well, including a second channel that I created where I wanted to get back into my childhood passion for playing and building Lego and sharing that experience with my then son who was very just new to the game. Just became so fulfilling for me, and we did that, and that started to blow up too, and everything went crazy. But I'm getting ahead of myself, I suppose, or maybe I'm not. You guys know the story. I've now been self-employed, or self-unemployed as I call it. I heard that phrase a while back, and I was like, ooh, self-unemployed. I like that. I work for myself. I have a business technically, but it really doesn't feel like a business. This feels like I somehow got lucky by doing all the things that I love to do in life and my hobbies, and I somehow get paid for them. And the only reason that I do that, I think, is because I'm just who I am. I just share who I am authentically and what we're doing. There's no crazy stuff. There's no clickbait. There's nothing. It's just our life. And if we're doing something, I film it, and I'm happy to have that as my video time capsule and to share that with the world, and for people to get value out of that's just an amazing thing. The same thing with the Lego stuff. I don't chase anything. I just do what I love to do. I collect the sets that I love, and that has become what we do. And it's remarkable to have these opportunities. But at this point, I've been doing this now for 5 years. I've been self-employed. I'm happy to announce now that I'm making more money than I was making at my job, and it's allowed us to have a lot of opportunities. This is the part where I say I don't want this to come off as bragging, but anything that I can do to maybe inspire you to maybe not become a YouTuber. Maybe that's not your dream, but if there's something out there that you want, use me as an example for somebody that, I'm nobody special. I'm just a guy that I just went all in on something because that's my character. When there's something I want, nothing will stop me from getting that. And through these future podcasts, I want to talk about another avenue where I did that in my life that I've never shared before. But you're gonna have to subscribe and stick around for that. This one's just about my self-unemployment journey. So let's talk about some of these opportunities. First of all, YouTube has allowed us to become completely debt-free. Paid off our old house that we lived in, and bought the house that we currently live in. We bought this house in 2020, and I do not have a mortgage. This house is completely paid off, and it feels amazing. There's some parts of me that regrets paying it off because interest rates then, unlike now, were very low, and I probably, in 2020, I could have put that money in any stocks probably and made a lot more money. But there is something about, as I change my lighting here, there's something about being debt-free that I just love. I love not having any risk, and I love having that security. I'm not much of a risk taker. If I do, it's a very calculated risk. I research everything. I take very careful plans. And I want to say, leading up to this, something that I didn't talk about in that 5-year journey, we made a lot of sacrifices in our 20s and 30s to get to this point. We forego a lot of traveling, lots of fun. I was just focused everything that I had into paying off that debt. And I do have some regrets with that. I do wish I would have lived more in those years. But Dave Ramsey has this saying that says, live like no one else now so you can live and give like no one else later. And I feel like I'm at that part in my life. And I shouldn't have been. I shouldn't have been there until I was in my 60s. And if I would have stayed at my job, That's how long it would have taken me, just scrounging together a little bit of money each month to save and try to pay off debts and try to build towards something, in the whole while doing something that I had lost all my passion for and brought me nothing but misery. I might be being dramatic, but that's just how I felt at the time. I felt hopeless, and maybe you feel that way too if you're an adult that has a job that you've been at and you're just you're grinding away. And maybe it would be lovely to hear from you, like to do a follow up. At the very least, I'll reply to every comment that I can on this video, unless you're listening to podcast world, because I know how hard it is to come over. You don't have to. You just listen, do your thing. So we got our house. We got no debt. Everything that I own, I have. And at this point, like, even if YouTube failed, I can just be thankful for everything that it's allotted me. Like if tomorrow I wake up and they're like, sorry, you're fired from YouTube, your channel's shut down, everything, I'm just like, you know what? I had one heck of a run. And that's kind of like the message that I would like to leave you with, because you never know. I might make this video 5 years from now and be like, man, those are the best years of my life. And I try to think about that all the time. One thing that I don't think about much is my job anymore. I used to think like, oh man, right now I'd still be at work. Right now I'd be doing this. Right now I'd be taking a lunch break. Now the only time I think about my job is when I drive past it and I look through the front windows and I'm like, thank God I'm not there anymore. But that's just a relief in my life. And I always try to tell Clark, I'm like, these videos that we make, that we do together, and you see me editing all the time and all the work that I put into this is allowing us to have this life. Like this, I don't know if he makes the connection between like, we make videos, we make money off of that. Like I know he knows they go online because he has friends that like are subscribed to our channel and they're like, oh, you're Clark. And it's allowed him to like make friends pretty easily, at least for now. And that could be a whole topic for the future. Like what happens in the future when Clark starts getting like maybe bullied for these videos? Although I don't feel like there's much shame in it. Like, hey, oh wow, like I'm going to make fun of you because your parents love you and you guys do a lot of stuff together and have a great time, and you get treated the way that I wish I got treated. That does lead to resentment and jealousy, and I've seen it online, and I just hope that we can avoid that in real life. So far, so good. That's one thing that this has allowed me to have. The opportunities are bountiful, and one of them is the amount of time that I've had with my family. This path that I've gone on has bought me so much life. Like that's really how I look at this YouTube thing. It's buying me life that I would have spent at my job. I got to spend with Clark, man, all those years up until he went to school, including his first year when we did the remote learning kindergarten thing with the COVID. It allowed me to have all these experiences with him every day. We were together. We were buddies. We were best of friends and father and son. And I felt like that just established such a base for us that it's just like we're still that. It's awesome. And I couldn't trade that for anything. I don't know what amount of money that I would have paid, everything that I have, to have that time. And I'm so thankful I have it. And I know someday in the future, maybe even now, as Clark Man goes out to the school bus every day and leaves for school, I'm like, dang, those were some great times. And I think there's that quote, I don't have it offhand and I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, you don't know you're in the good times until the good times are past. And that's certainly how I felt, but I still feel like things are good. So it's allowed me all kinds of time, and I'm home now. I have a lot of margin in my life, which is wonderful. Like if there's a day that I just want to go camping with my boy, we just go. There's nobody saying like, oh, you can't have that day off. You can't take this. And that was a reality at my old job. Like I couldn't take certain weeks off. I couldn't take certain times off and other people off. You always had to manage that. Now it's like, hey, it's Friday. I want to go kayaking. I'm going to go kayaking today. I want to do this. It's fine. I can focus on so many other things. And that's incredible to have that margin, because YouTube is a thing that, people are watching videos while I sleep. There's money being made while I sleep. There's money being made throughout the day. There's money being made right now with people watching my videos. But that's because the value's there, hopefully, where we're hopefully entertaining or doing something for you that finds value for people out there, whether they're very young, very old. I've heard from all of them, and it's incredible to know that we're able to impact people all over the world. It's amazing. One other thing, speaking of all over the world, this has allowed us to travel. I mentioned we gave up on a lot of luxuries in our 20s and 30s because this was Like YouTube wasn't the thing, but it was like, I want to get out of debt so I can make a move in my life. I didn't know it would be YouTube. I didn't know that was my passion. I'd been thinking in my 20s all about like, what's my passion going to be? What is my passion? What do I love to do? And I didn't really know what it was until I started watching these vloggers that shared their lives. And I felt like I was a part of their life. And to see that they were making a living of it was just like, I was like, wow, this is so amazing to be a part of that. To see these real people, or at least you hope that they're real. In some cases turned out not to be. It was just remarkable to see. And I was so happy to be able to do that for myself, even if it was just in a small way. And, sharing us getting our first house and Roxy Bear and all that, all the way up to Clark Man coming along and stuff. Like my whole story's out there, and it's crazy, but it's allowed us to make up for lost time through the travel we've gotten to do over the last few years. You guys know we just came back from a trip to the UK. Something that we would have never been able to do if I was just working my old job. And maybe with many years of savings, we could have probably pulled that off. But even like now, I went on vacation for 2 weeks. I just didn't upload any videos for 2 weeks. It was like, I got my vacation as much as I want. We go traveling to other places as well. Like went to Disney earlier this year. That was incredible. That was a once in a lifetime or a dream come true trip that I was so happy to go on, and the timing of it was amazing. I took the week off of work. Like you can do whatever you want when you're self-employed. I feel like that. No, I don't like the way that sounds, but there is a lot of margin, and that margin is worth its weight in gold. So that's something that I really appreciate doing this. And that was, I feel like those are the real opportunities. A little fuzz on my microphone. Those are the opportunities that came from this, and I'm sure there's plenty more that are intangible. But it's been an amazing ride that I'm so thankful for. There are some downsides though. I don't want to paint this like it's the most amazing thing. Like I don't want you tomorrow to walk into your job and be like, I quit. I'm going to be a YouTuber. There's a lot of luck involved, but I think with luck also comes showing up, and you got to devote everything you have to this. And I took that a little too far early on in 2018, 2019. Back when Brickatech Live was created, that was probably the low point of my relationship with my family and my wife, because I was so obsessed with this, because there is no separation from work and play. Like when you're making Lego videos or playing with Lego or, whatever the case is, editing, even I love editing in small chunks. Like I look at it like sculpting. I take a block of footage and I sculpt that into exactly what I want. And it feels like a piece of art going out, even though, to most people, it's just a home video and it's worthless. I've actually heard that as a comment before. Like, you don't deserve to get paid for this. You're just making home videos. And it's true. I mean, there's no lie, but through those home videos, I'm hopefully entertaining people. And you get to come on our journey. Like, you just got to go on vacation with us. If you go back and watch our UK playlist, you could literally sit down for about 2 hours and go through our entire vacation with us as though you're there. But you get to avoid the long flights, the wait times, all of the in-betweens. You get to just have the best of the experience. And it's pretty cool. But I got really too far into it, and the work-life balance was way off. I was putting way too much time and energy in, because I'm a guy, like I mentioned, I can't just do something. I have to go all in on something. It's like an addictive personality, which is why I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any drugs, because I know if I did, it would absolutely destroy me. I would be the worst alcoholic you could find. I'd be on the most drugs. Like, it would be a trip to like a terrible place. So that's why I don't do any of that stuff, because I know how I am. I know I get easily addicted to things, and sometimes those are positive things, like working, for example, so you could say. But I found out that, you really got to find like that point where it's like, okay, you need to cut this off now. You can't be spending your entire nights live streaming. You can't be doing 3 live streams a day. You can't be uploading videos on 4 different channels. You got to find balance. And that was a big struggle of mine, and something I've talked about on these podcast episodes throughout the years, which are, I guess, now found on 3 different YouTube channels. But if you want to listen to the entire story of all of these episodes, when it was missing pieces and all the way up until now, you can go on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and they're all there right in order. You could go back to, man, there was even more before that. There was Good Morning World, which was on Greg's World back in like 2018, 2019, maybe. There's even more podcasts than I can think of. I've been doing this for at least 3 years now, which is pretty darn cool. And I love this. I love the fact that I can become a podcaster, but we'll talk about that here in my goals section. I just want to say, like, ultimately, with all the opportunities, downsides, the fact that I get to live my dream, do exactly what I want to do for a living, and play with Lego for a living. It's remarkable. I don't know anyone in my life that loves what they do. I mean, there's people that say they like their job, but would you do your job if you weren't getting paid for it? My answer is yes. I would still be making these videos. YouTube shuts me down. I'm still making my home movies. I'm still building Lego and stuff like that. It's just I'm not going to be like sharing it, right? Or you won't be able to, like, say the internet crashes, or I don't know. I'm just making up hypotheticals. Say a nuclear bomb hits the earth. say an asteroid destroys the planet. No, it's just I don't know anyone that is this lucky, and I look at this as an absolute gift. Like, I talk to Cody about this all the time. I'm like, this is such a gift that we've been given, and we can't waste this, which is why I want to do as much traveling, as much things as I can with Clarkman and her now while we can, because we don't know what the future holds. You just never know. My parents, they both passed away in the last few years, and it taught me that nothing's guaranteed. You don't know if you're going to make it to retirement age. And you don't know if that life that you're planning for by working your job and doing the things that a good boy would do, you don't know if that's all going to pay out. So I say, eat your dessert now. Live as much as you can now. And I'm on that mindset because I've lived the opposite for so long. I've delayed gratification for so long in search of goals that I had, whether it be to be out of debt or to get to a certain place because I want to get there and there and there. Now I'm not planning for the future. I'm planning for right now. I want to do today exactly what I want to do to get me to where I want to get to tomorrow. And if that means spending money, so be it. I'm done living for tomorrow. We live for today now. And I'm going to talk about that here in this next segment, which is my goals. Let's talk about where do I want to be in the next 5 years? What do I want to accomplish this year? Like, where are we going when I make my episode titled Self-Unemployed for 10 years, which would be pretty wild. Like, that'll be 2027. Well, we hopefully everything's still good there. But as I mentioned, if it all ends, I had a nice run. It was fun hanging out with you guys. And I couldn't have wished for anything better. But let's talk about my goals, because I think goals are important. I think goals are something that everyone should have, because I know for me, if I don't have a goal that I'm working towards, I start to get depressed. And I know we've had episodes on this before, but I don't know how people exist without goals. Like, what gets you out of bed in the morning? You know, like, okay, I got to go to work. Well, do you have a goal? Are you trying to get promoted? Maybe? Are you trying to save some money? Are you trying to, like, what is your goal? You got to have a goal. You got to have something you're striving toward, because it's like, otherwise you're just a hamster on a wheel if you don't have a goal. It's okay to be the hamster on the wheel if you know that wheel is going to generate some electricity that you're going to then escape from your cage with, right? Like, that's my life. I was the hamster in the cage that generated electricity to open the cage that was electrically powered. Okay, let's talk about these goals. One thing that I see in the future, maybe it isn't a goal, but something that's probably going to be a reality. I see myself making fewer regular life vlogs. And I know the Greg's World audience just like shrieked or sighed, or you did something of like disapproval because you liked seeing what's going on in a regular day. And I understand that, but I think what I want to do going forward is less of just like filming like, hey, I'm drinking a glass of milk. Hey, Clark's getting ready for school. Hey, I went and got groceries. Sweeping the porch. I don't know, like less of that and more like dedicated videos like, oh, we're doing this, or we're going to this place or whatever. And I want to make like nice videos with that, maybe even with like voiceover work too, because I like to think that I have a voice for radio, and maybe we can pull that off. I like to experiment with like a little bit of a different thing, because I don't like to do the same thing for too long. I like kind of switching it up a little bit. I get bored pretty easily, and that's one of the nice things about being self-unemployed is you can change your path whenever you see fit, and I find myself dialing things around a little bit. So I see more like regular vlogs, dedicated videos. I thought about doing a series called Greg Learns, where I learn various things, or I make like improvements, whether it to be myself, my situation, the house, whatever it is. Like maybe something to motivate other people to do things. Not necessarily tutorial videos like how to fix a sink, but like I can be like, hey, I fixed my sink today, if that's what came up, and that's a little improvement that I made. That'd be a great YouTube short series, honestly. Another thing that I started focusing on, you guys are gonna be so freaking proud of me. Finally getting my health under control. This is my like priority right now, because I really want to get I want to be in optimal shape. I want to be the best shape I've been in my life by the time I turn 40. But I'm not saying 40. I'm going to say by the time I turn 38, which happens in December. I really want to get I want to get super lean. I want to get super muscular. And I'm doing that with Cody. We're going to Planet Fitness, which is like the local gym. It's $10 a month, so you got nothing to lose. And we're going there 3 times a week, and I'm really excited. We've gone 2 times now, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the results of this and seeing what I can craft, because I know if I put my mind to something, just like I mentioned earlier, there's literally nothing that can stop me, because I will get obsessed and I will make it my priority, and I can do it. Like there's no stopping me. If there's something that I want, I will find a way. Regardless of what it is, I will find a way to make it happen. And I believe that for almost anyone. If you're a dedicated person and there's something you want in this world within reason, tomorrow you're not going to be an NFL player. But if you decide tomorrow that you want whatever it is that you want, you do this in some ways in your life already. Like you decide you want McDonald's for dinner, you're going to get McDonald's for dinner. You're going to do it unless you talk yourself out of it. But if you're committed to something, you will find a way, both good and bad. I'm trying to get my health in order. It was one of my big goals this year, and I'm going to be working towards it. I don't know what extent I'm going to be making videos on it, other than maybe like little updates here and there. Definitely not a fitness channel by any means, but I think it's worth sharing because, again, maybe I can inspire, motivate someone else out there. And I want to talk about health in a future episode and some things from my past that I was able to accomplish that I think could motivate you potentially. Not that this is like a motivational channel or speech, but maybe it can be, because if we're doing this for any reason, why not that, right? Like, sure, maybe you like me being with you while you're driving in your car and you're going to work, or you're sitting at work, or you're mowing the grass, or you're doing the dishes. Maybe it can be more than that. And that would be really freaking awesome to hear from somebody years down the line. They're like, dang, Greg, guess what I did? I'll be like, what'd you do? They're like, I became an astronaut. I live on Mars. I'm like, because of me? They're like, yeah, dude. Yeah, you were the guy. Like, oh, thank you so much. No, it's not going to happen. But who knows? Who knows what can come of this? You never know. Another thing that's going to change content-wise, podcasts. I love this. I love listening to podcasts. I love like journalistic podcasts, not like reporting the news, but like people doing like life journals, audio, stuff like this. I love it. I wish there was more of it. There's only a few people in this world that I know that actually do this, where they sit down and just talk about their life in like a vlog sense. I want to do more podcasting. There's all kinds of things in my mind, and I thought, why don't I just fire this up? I used to do that in live streams, but I feel like that it kind of gets lost in that media or medium. So I'd like to just sit down and make a dedicated thing here, because my brain is one where I cycle things over and over and over and over. And when I make a podcast like this where I sit down and talk about things, it allows me to get it out, and then I can move on to new things. It frees up space in there. There's only so much space. So we free that up a little bit, and then we can go on to the next thing, and maybe you're interested in hear what I have to talk about. So that's why this channel is now dedicated to this. And, we'll see what happens. I don't have like any ulterior motives. Like, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to get you to subscribe to anything. I'm not trying to do anything other than to share this. In the future, maybe that will change if this becomes like a big thing for me, or a source of income or revenue, especially if I like move away from like sharing my family's personal life. Because at some point that gets to be a little too much, right? Especially as Clark gets older, I can't imagine that he's going to want to, share all that we do. And sometimes maybe I'll want to keep that kind of stuff private. But podcasting is always something that I can do. And even as I get older, I think it'll be a pretty neat thing. So I'm not going to rule it out for the future. Maybe Greg's World Podcast, brought to you by Audible. Use my code Greg's World for whatever. Maybe it'll be that, but it's not going to be like, it won't be anything that I wouldn't believe in. So I'm going to, keep that out there for the future, because I think everyone likes to be compensated for the effort they put into something. Maybe we would do it through Patreon. Maybe there'd be something there. Maybe a little secret podcast on Patreon could be a cool thing. I don't know. I haven't really thought that far ahead. I just know that I want to do this, and I'm just excited to be here. And I know I have all kinds of things to talk about. I'm starting a new series, by the way. I know we're kind of getting into the weeds of things here, but there's a new series that's going to be coming out here. I think this week I'm going to start it. Titled 3 Questions. At least that's the name that I have now, where we're gonna dive into the mind of the mastermind behind Greg's World, and talk about things that are like conversation starter questions. We'll talk more about that in the future, though. That'll be a limited series, but I might make it something that can go on for a very long time. Another thing that's going to change, I think the Lego side of things is going to become a more important part of my life. It's so much easier making a video about a Lego topic or a set or something that I'm doing in the world of Lego than it is like finding something interesting to do in life or to make something that's worth sharing. So I see that becoming a thing. I also see myself spending more time making like my space down here exactly the way I want it, at least initially. And then a lot of it's going to be just creative work. This is going to be like my creative outlet through Lego. And I want to share that with the goal there, again, to inspire people to be creative with Lego, to make cool stuff, and to not always just rely on being fed like Lego sets, but to make stuff of their own that they're proud of and they're excited about. So I'm not only trying to inspire you here, but I'm trying to inspire people over there. And that's where I really want to inspire people, because I could see like kids really benefiting from that. If I could just be like, hey, you know what I really wanted? I wanted this Lego whatever. They never made it, so I made one of my own. Why don't you guys try making one? Wouldn't that be a cool thing to do? And maybe I can be that. Be like the Mr. Rogers of Lego would be an honor. What an amazing man. I was going to say fella. First time I don't use fella usually, but I'll say amazing fella in that regard. Lastly, last goal, back to finances, where we started at in the very beginning of this episode. I'd really love to make enough money from YouTube in the next 5 years, which is, a big ask, but I'd like to make enough money that I can invest it properly in like various dividend stocks, that I make enough money through those dividends to make as much money as I was making at my job before I quit. Because then it's like, that's my income. And if I ever want to retire from YouTube, which I don't see myself doing, that could be it. That's my income. It's set. It's pretty much guaranteed unless the stock market crashes, which is always a possibility. But it's just like a goal I set for myself, like a financial goal. I think it's, like I said, it's always good to have goals. And that's my financial goal, to make enough money through dividends to make what I was making at my job before, through stock dividends. If you don't know what a dividend is, essentially you buy a stock for, let's keep it easy, $100 stock, right? Buy one share. Every quarter, every 3 months, that company would give you, let's make it real easy, $1 for having your money with them. So that'd be $1 every 3 months from that $100. You put $1,000 in there, there's $10, right? That's $10 every 3 months, or $3 a month. You just got to have enough money to really make that a big number, and you diversify yourself and everything. I'm not a stockbroker, and I can't give you financial advice legally or just in general, but that's like a big goal of mine. I think that would be an incredible number to hit, and then I'd feel really darn secure about our future, and just feel like we'd be unstoppable at that point. But until then, I'm going to keep doing what I love to do, keep sharing my passion for things, whatever that may be, with the world. And hopefully, as I've found so far, there's an audience for that. Because again, the product is just us. It's like what we're into, what we're doing. And regardless of what that is, whether it's Lego or RC or Hot Wheels, Thomas and Friends, travel videos, ultimately at the end, it's just like, do you want to be a part of our journey? And I hope that answer is yes. So on that, I appreciate you being a part of this journey, and I hope for many more years of this. I hope to be making that 10-year video someday, and it'll be fun to look back on this one to see like what life was like, where I was, and like what things were. Hopefully that's cleaned up by then. I have 5 years to do that, so we'll work towards it. But thank you all for tuning into this episode of the Greg's World podcast. I appreciate you all being here. If you're watching this on the Brick Tech Live channel and you made it this far and you thought this was all about Lego, but now it's not. Hopefully you found this to be something that you enjoyed. At least that's what I hope. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you in the next episode, which, you know what? Let's just do it tomorrow. We'll see you guys tomorrow, or we'll hear you guys, hear me. No, we're still working on the outro. We'll hear or see something tomorrow for the next episode. All right. See ya. Bye.